Ani Bojo, give me one go koi dijnakas makwadodam. My English name is Angela McEwen, and I come from Obadjawana, northern Minnesota, and a member of Batchewana First Nation. In April of this year, my daughter and I were living in British Columbia, and were victims of domestic violence, which included abuse, abandonment, and robbery. And we were homeless in April after we were abandoned, and we lived in campgrounds in British Columbia for a couple of months, for like 2.5 months before we made it back to Ontario. We started a GoFundMe, we got some donations. My daughter was almost taken by human traffickers. We were almost shot a couple of times in British Columbia. It's very, very dangerous for Indigenous women. We've been very traumatized and shocked and horrified by everything that has happened to us. We didn't foresee this situation happening. It was a very difficult time. With the help of our community, we made it back to Ontario, and we got back in June. We self-isolated for a couple of weeks, and then we stayed at campgrounds. Well, we ran out of money, and we had no place to go. So we came back to Ontario, and we camped in campgrounds for about 4 or 5 weeks. Our community gave us some money, and people gave us donations that enabled us to do that. Then our money ran out, and we thought, well, let's go to the Rincon Powwow grounds because there's electricity and water there. And we were working on our powwow outfits to dance in Garden River Powwow. This was the Thursday, the week before the powwow, Thursday evening. And I had I'm a jingle dress dancer, and I had danced a lot at the powwows in Batchewana First Nation. So we pulled in Thursday. On Friday, the worker that had been helping us through the services at Batchewana Health Center came to see us, and she brought us some supplies and stuff, and we told her what was going on happening, and she said she would get in touch with Chief Dean Sayers to see if he could turn the water on, because there was no water. So Saturday night, a couple of community members showed up. They put a tent up and a fire, and they were drinking and partying on and stuff, and we just minded our own business because, we don't want any trouble from anybody. And then Sunday, a crisis worker from the Women's Crisis Center had come over to see what was going on, because she had something she wanted to do there on Monday, and then we told her our story, and she said, okay, well, I'll reschedule, we'll do it somewhere else. She said, in the meantime, I'll ask Chief Dean Sayers if he'll turn the water on for you. So we said, okay, thank you. And she gave us some gift cards and some supplies also. Actually, on Sunday, when the crisis worker was there, the couple that were camping there and partying were fighting very loudly, and she's screaming, and it was really bad. So she called the police. So the police showed up, and but they had left. So we told them why we were there and what was going on and how many nights they had been there and that. And they said, okay, well, you guys take care, and if they come back, to call them. So then on Monday night, they had showed up and were partying again, but we didn't really want to get involved with anything, so we just didn't bother with them. We didn't call the police. Tuesday, they showed up, and it was very violent. They were fighting really bad, she was abusing him, and it was a really, really bad scene, and we were quite concerned, actually. We were scared, so we called the cops, and the cops showed up, and they talked to them. But then they came over, and they started asking me questions about, why we were there, where we were from, because we have BC plates. So I explained the situation that we had just escaped from in British Columbia, and we were just there for a week or two because we were there to get services in place. The different people in the band, the health center, were helping us. We're trying to get housing, we're getting finances in place, all that kind of thing, getting assistance. And I had explained all this to the police. However, they continued to badger me for probably about 15 or 20 minutes, over and over, same questions, and they were quite aggressive. They told us that we couldn't stay there, we had to leave, we weren't allowed to be there, and I just finally walked back over to where we were camping and walked away from them. And then Wednesday afternoon, Liz Wakamakad showed up with 2 members of her team, one of who had been helping us during this time. And she is the Director of Human Resources, I believe her title is, at the Help Center. And she told us that we weren't allowed to stay there. We had to leave, that the land was sacred and it was for powwows and ceremony only, and we were not allowed to be there. Which, I mean, we showed up, people were partying and fighting. There was garbage all over that my daughter and I picked up and actually put in our own garbage bags that we picked up from the Power Grounds. So she said that we had this meeting, and she said that she would come back the next day and she would bring us options of where we could stay, whether it was hotels, whether it was campgrounds. They were going to give us a check for... they were going to give us some money for housing assistance, and they would come back with the options, and they were going to give us YMCA passes. One of the workers mentioned that they were going to do that so we could shower, and also that worker also mentioned that if we needed counseling, mental health, if we need to see the doctor because we were severely malnourished. So they were going to come back with all of these options for us and all this information Thursday morning, or pardon me, sometime Thursday during the day, so we can make an informed decision on where we wanted to go, if we were going to stay there, if we were going to go to the campground. Then she also told us information about the shelters, and the shelter, we would have had to give up our dogs, and our dogs saved our lives in BC. The only reason we were, and in the Rincon Power Grounds, the only reason we're alive today is because of our guard dogs. So we were not parting with them. So that meeting never took place on Thursday. One of the workers that had worked with us all along had come by and brought us some supplies and told us that, the check had been, like they were making the check, and as soon as it was ready, she was going to bring it to us, whether it was that afternoon or Friday morning. So we were like, okay, that's great. Then Thursday night, the woman that was staying there with the man had come over, and she just started harassing us and really just going after my daughter, and she was very aggressive and violent and drunk, and she was going to beat her up, and we're like, oh, we just had enough of this. And so this went on for about 15-20 minutes, and just she finally went away because my dogs were barking really loud. We went and stood by our dogs, which is what got rid of her. And 2 people we know from the community showed up, and we told them what was going on. They didn't even know we were there. We told them, and the woman was there harassing and swearing at us while they were there. So then my daughter and I decided Thursday that we were going to leave Friday or Saturday morning and go to the Power Grounds in Garden River and camp there, and then just find someplace else to stay after, because we just couldn't stay here, because we were just being harassed and victimized, and nobody was protecting. There was only basically one person, 2 people that were protecting us and looking out for us. So I had told Liz that night that we were going to leave, and she said that it was best that we leave because we couldn't stay there and it was non-negotiable at this time, and we had to leave the Power Grounds. So on Friday morning, an O&M worker came to turn off the electricity. Liz had kept the COO in Natalie Atkinson in the loop. I had told Liz everything that was going on, how long we were going to stay for another week, because we were originally planning to stay one more week and then leave, but we were we couldn't handle these fighting people and getting harassed. And so on Friday morning, an O&M worker came over to turn off the electricity because he had received an email from Linda Robinson, who is the membership liaison with Batchewana First Nation. Now, her job is to assist with membership inquiries and navigate the Batchewana First Nation departments, meaning help members navigate the departments if they're looking for information for something. So she reports directly to Chief and Council in her capacity. Then we told him our case, what happened, where we were from, why we had BC plates and everything, and he went, okay. Then I jumped in my truck and I drove down to the band office because I was quite upset. I also recorded the conversation, which I'm going to play after this, that you can listen to. So that evening, they had turned off all the lights in the Power Grounds except the one that was directly over top where we were camping. And when we had got there, all the lights were on, every single light, and even the lights under the arbor were on 24/7, and my daughter shut them off because it was a complete waste of electricity. Now, we were using electricity to cook our food, so we had a single burner stove that we hooked up and cooked food on like 3 times a day, which so probably for a maximum of maybe like an hour to an hour and a half every day that we used that for food. So Friday evening, this man came by that was very drunk on a motorcycle, little moped motorcycle. He was very aggressive and he was very angry. He worked with the O&M and he was mad that we were there. We had BC plates. What were we doing there? We were making his job harder. He was swearing. He was harassing us. He threatened to beat up my daughter. He almost did beat her up. The only thing that stopped him was I grabbed my German Shepherd and untied him from the tree and brought him over. And I do have like a video of that also that you can watch after this. And I also took a video of all the lights and how we were in like almost complete darkness, so anybody could come from any which way and attack us. So anyways, so we called the worker and she came over. We were very upset. We were completely distraught. She called the police. Again, the police showed up, who spent the time harassing us, re-victimizing and traumatizing my disabled daughter and I. She suffers from PTSD and other mental health issues from her accident that she was. She suffers from PTSD and other issues from the accident that she was in 13 years ago, where she broke her left parietal lobe, which is basically her skull. She broke her neck and her back, and she had almost fully right-sided paralysis and suffers from many issues and is disabled. So they told us we were squatters, thieves, because we were using electricity. We needed to be removed and we couldn't be there under the Indian Act. So I questioned them about where this directive comes from to kick us off the land, because when I spoke with Natalie, as you'll hear, she said that it was the police that directed her to tell her to remove us from the land, but they informed us that their directive comes from the band, not from the police. And then upon my questioning of the law and who says we can't be on our own lands and our own community was when they cited the Indian Act. So let's look at this chain of command of events. Liz Wakamakad is the Director of Human Services at the Health Center, not from Batchewana First Nation. She is a visitor on my lands. These are my lands. My family comes from Obadjawan in northern Minnesota. So she is coming here kicking myself and my daughter, who is also a member of Batchewana First Nation, off our lands in her capacity. What authority does she have to do that? Does she work in enforcement? Does she work in lands and administration? Does she even know the laws of the land in my community? That is not hers. Also, Liz reports directly to Natalie Atkinson, who is the Chief Operating Officer, who reports directly to Chief Dean Sayers, who actually is my cousin and knows my daughter is disabled because he came to Sick Kids 13 years ago to visit us while she was lying broken in a hospital bed and couldn't even move. So the chain of command in Batchewana First Nation is Dean Sayers, Chief and Council, to Natalie Atkinson, COO, to Kim Lambert, who is CEO. That is the three that runs this community basically and makes all of the decisions. And not one of them came down to visit us at the powwow grounds or to discuss anything with us, what was going on. We thought we were coming home to a safe place only to be traumatized, victimized, and kicked out of our own community onto the dangerous streets of Sault Ste. Marie, which is one of the top 5 dangerous cities in Ontario to live in. This is why so many women are going missing and murdered, because people like Chief Dean Sayers, the Batchewana Rankin First Nation Police, Natalie Atkinson, the COO, Kim Lambert, the CEO, who all of these people, not one of them took our safety, our emotions, our situation into consideration. All they did was re-victimize, re-traumatize, and kick us out onto the street, which is where we still are. So there are many, many questions that need to be asked here, and I really think that it's up to the community and people to ask these questions of these people, why this situation happened.
Hi, perhaps you can explain to me why you're kicking my daughter and I out of the Powwow Grounds, who's disabled, has extreme emotional mental disabilities. We just barely escaped from family violence in British Columbia with our lives. Came back here because we were told, come home, you can get help. We were supported. We had absolutely no place else to go. We were simply waiting for a place which should be ready in a week. So we went to the Powwow Grounds for a couple of weeks because it's the Powwow Grounds. Now we're told that it's sacred and ceremonial, so we can't stay there. But so let me ask you, if it's so sacred, why is there a couple that drink there? Why is there partying going on there all the time? Why is there garbage all over the grounds? So how sacred is that? That is not sacred. I know it's not a campground. I am not here to debate this with you. I know it's not really, because you should go talk to the community members, because community members feel it is a campground and this is my land. Don't treat me like I'm not from here. Don't send a community liaison person over to tell someone to turn electricity off. Really? Because the directive came from you to Liz to make sure that we were out of here, and it was non-negotiable.
Well, the police need you to be
the police.
Off of there.
So where in the police law do they say they can kick us off our land? Can you show me that law?
You'll have to talk to the police.
No, I don't have to talk to the police, because this is the band office, and a band office should have all the laws of the land in their office.
Well, I do not.
Well, then you should, because that is part of the job of a band community,
so what can I do for
is
you?
to have, you cannot turn off the electricity, because that's the only way my daughter and I have to eat. And as you can see, we are malnourished and starving because we're living on dried food, because we were abused, we were robbed, and we were abandoned. And I came home to this community that I worked in, that I danced in these Powwow Grounds. I put feasts down there. I am the caretaker of this land. I have taken care of this land. How dare you people kick me off of my own land? And don't tell me the police. They're not the ones that make the laws here. Who makes the laws here?
They enforce the laws.
No. Who made? That's not what I said. I said who makes the laws.
Well, I don't make them.
But you should know
And
them.
neither do you.
Do you know them?
I don't know them
Exactly.
offhand.
Did I say I made the laws? Don't play word games with me. That is not what I'm saying.
Okay, well, Angela, I'm not here to argue with you.
Really? Because you're kicking me out of my home community.
I'm not kicking you out
Really?
anywhere.
Because the directive came from you. So who gave you the directive?
The police.
So you're saying the police control the laws in Batchewana First Nation and they decide the course. Is that what you're saying?
The police, yes, they enforce
So
the
where
laws.
is the law? I'd like
You're
you to
going
show
to
me
have
that
to
law.
ask the
No, I
police.
don't,
I
because
don't
this is
have
the
that.
band office and this is your job as COO, who is in
it's
charge
not.
of everything. Oh, it's
No,
not your
I'm
job
not
to
in
know
charge of
laws?
everything.
It's
I'm
not
in
your job
charge
to
of
know laws in
everything.
your community?
No.
Oh, that's an interesting way to operate. Very
Okay,
interesting.
So we are keeping the power on till tomorrow because I understand that you're going to be
Yes, because it's not
relocating.
safe there and we can't
I know
stay
it's
here.
not safe.
Because we can't call the police, because the police took it a personal little attack on me because I have BC plates and I don't know for whatever reason that I cannot stay there, yet people come and go there all the time.
Well, then you can call the police on them.
Seriously, are we going to resort to that?
Well, I mean, Angela, I don't have an answer for you. All I know
Well,
is
you know
that
what? You should have the answer. You're the COO of this community. Then who told the Native Liaison Officer, who is for the community, which I'm not a community member, person shows up and goes, where are you from? Are you kidding me? You're going to tell me people in here don't know I'm from here? I worked here.
Well, I don't know, Angela.
That's not the
I'm
point.
sure
That's
not
your
everyone
job.
knows who
If
you
you're
are.
telling people to get us out of there and direct us, it's your job to know who we are and that we are members here. And my family comes from Garden and Obadjawan. Where does yours come from?
I don't need to explain that to you.
Yeah, you do. If you're
No,
kicking me
I
off
don't.
my own land, you're the one giving the directives, and all of a sudden you're not responsible for anything, and you don't know the laws. That's not even a contention point. Don't tell me about a safe place to
We're
live,
going
lady.
to allow
I am the one
the
that
lights to
escaped,
stay on.
barely got my daughter and myself. She was almost captured in BC. We were almost murdered. She was almost captured here in Sault Ste. Marie by human traffickers. So don't give me this generosity. We're going to allow you when it's my land. And we're like, oh, it's our community. It's safe. We know a lot of people here. They're like, yeah, stay at the Powwow Grounds because there's water, there's electricity, and you'll be safe.
It's not safe.
That's not the point.
It is the point.
It is not the point. Why do you care about my safety? If you cared about my safety, you wouldn't be kicking me out into a dangerous situation. This morning the meeting never took place. Here we're getting out of here because you know what? It's not because that's not safe. It's because you guys, this community, does not make that a safe place. by allowing drinking there, by allowing drugs to be used there, by allowing garbage. People sleep there all the time. That's why it's not safe. And barricading it off and turning off the power, that's not going to make a difference, because that's not the fundamental problem here.
Okay, so here we are at night at the powwow grounds where we've been staying. And up until tonight, all of these lights have been lit up in this powwow grounds. It was completely lit. So this is where we're staying, and we could see anyone coming from any which way at all. But now, because they want to turn the electricity off today, and I went over to the, so they left this one light where we are staying right here on, and it's dark everywhere. Everywhere else. Look at, this was done intentionally. So we have like no safety net, whereas before it was like, oh, well, we don't have to worry because you know what, if anyone creeps up any which way, then I'm going to see them because I'm sleeping in the back of the truck. So my daughter sleeps in the trailer and I sleep in the back of the truck. The truck is usually turned around the other way and close to the trailer, and one of my dogs sleeps in the truck with me, so we hear and know anyone that's coming any which way. And there was also lights, if you look like to the other side of my truck right there, there was lights on over there, and this was all lit up all the way around, and now it's dark.
What's your name? What's your name?
What, you want to bite?
You're threatening us. Why are you threatening us? We're from here.
Yeah, you're from BC.
The house, you don't own the land,
You have-
ever.
They have property guys that have specific property lines.
I know,
for
but
those
you don't own
houses.
it. The land, the band,
You have the,
the community.
you have the certificate of possession.
The
band-
community owns the
the
whole
band,
the land.
No,
You
the band,
just own the
the band
structure on
issues
the
the
land.
certificate of possession.
It's,
okay.
it's still owned
But
by the
what does it
band.
say? Does it say you own the land, or does it
You
say you
own
own the
that
house?
portion of land on this reserve. You're right. It's the reserve. It's all the reserve land, but this portion is assigned to you.
So who's this land assigned to?
You know what?
Whoever the certificate of possession.
Here's the thing.
Well, that's what we're
Okay, so-
asking.
okay,